What's up, you filthy casuals? Welcome to Casual Shenanigans Tech, a podcast where me, Jeremiah, and Dave... Hey, Dave.
Casual Dave here.
Yeah, sure. We help you answer your computer build or computer-related questions. We are the little brother podcast to Casual Shenanigans Gaming, so go check us out at casualshenanigans.com, and you can write in to be a part of the show, casualshenanigans@gmail.com. So, let's start the show, like we always do, with the Rig Report.
Rig Report. Dun 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 dun.
Dave, what's new with your rig?
I have now had my Fallout 4 computer for just over a month, just barely over a month. And the General, the new computer, has still played a total of 0 games. It, however, has completed something like 35 renders between Cinema 4D and Sony Vegas and After Effects. So it's working hard. But I installed Steam games today because the wife is about to be on summer break from school. She's a teacher, and she was just going through my Steam list like, I want this and this. I was just like, we have 2 computers now. Like, it's time to make use of the Steam library. But other than that,
what's she going to be playing? What are you installing for?
First 2 were Dear Esther, which she actually watched me play through, but she wants to explore it herself. Just very immersive game. I'm so proud. And then Don't Starve, which her brother got her like 5 years ago, but her MacBook couldn't run it. So
cool. Yeah,
the main rig though is cruising along just fine. Nothing to report other than I have my jealous eye on a possible 1080 this week.
Possible? Come on, be honest. You're getting one.
That was purposeful phrasing. I want one. I don't know if I can get one. Like,
gotcha.
I'm worried that I won't be able to get one, basically. But I'm buying one for Geralt. I was playing some Witcher today, and with the mods I have installed, which for me, are like a requirement. I was at like, on average, 55 to 60 FPS with just a couple very quick dips to like 48. It's so close I can like taste it. I just want that lock 60, that 16.3 millisecond frame timing. And with Blood and Wine coming out next week, like, I actually,
incomplete senses. Get it together, Dave.
I really don't have any words. Like, I feel like this is gonna be my Half-Life 2, like the end of the Witcher 3 saga.
Don't. The Witcher 3 is amazing. I like it better than Half-Life 2, but that implies that like we're never gonna see it again.
But yeah, that's the problem though, is that the way that CDPR is talking, like they're really driving home that this is the end for The Witcher 3, and this is the end of Geralt's story. Anything could happen in the future, but at least for a long time, I think this is the end. So I want to experience it like 100% best the first time,
How close to done are you with the rest of the story, like in the main game?
I believe today I finished the last notice board in Skellige, and they're all done in Velen too. So I think I have maybe like 40 to 45 treasure locations, which don't take very long. And that's it for the base game. Like I'm within, I'd say, 5 hours of being able to wipe the map clean. For me, I can stretch it into like 10 or so, but the end is
that's a heck of
approaching.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, that's a lot. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Well, so that doesn't really have anything to do with your computer, but GTX 1080s.
Yes.
So the reviews look very good. We've talked about it on the main podcast. You want to hear us, go listen to episode 146. We talk about it in detail. We won't go into it too much here, other than to say the 1080 is coming out. Dave is planning on an upgrade. Appear to be about 25% faster than 980 Ti's.
Very surprising, if you ask me.
Pretty awesome. As usual, the best bang for your buck is going to be the 1070. It's the one step down card. Because it's going to be about the same as a 980 Ti for $380. So, if you're unsure about which one you want to get, and you're playing it like 1080p, I wouldn't be getting a 1080 right now. I'd be picking up someone's used 980 Ti or grabbing yourself a 1070 when they come out in a few weeks.
Good advice.
I mean, I know.
I mean, no, it's good advice for after someone buys my 980 Ti.
Yeah, unless you're Dave, you should wait. No, I mean, I might get one too. Well, I'll just see how, I want to see how good the aftermarket coolers overclock.
Yeah.
And that might kind of make my decision a little bit more for me. But for now, let's hop into, my rig.
Yeah.
I've upgraded the potato masher to Windows 10. The upgrade was incredibly smooth, but games ran incredibly bad. So I did a clean install and everything works great now. I followed Tech Yes City's guide to decrapifying Windows 10. There's a ton of services you can turn off and a ton of optional, hey, do you totally mind if Microsoft keeps an eye on this for you? You can turn all that off. And it's running really well. Got a lot of tests coming. So I'm considering taking the free upgrade on my main computer, but if I do that, I'm going to have to do a clean install, and I don't really want to do that because that's going to be a big hassle. But if I do it, I'll probably take the opportunity to move up to a terabyte SSD.
Do it.
Yeah, no, I know. I got plenty of other things to spend money on right now, so I don't.
Like automobiles?
Yes.
That's why I thought, actually.
Funny you should mention that. That's exactly what I meant. Anyway, on to our first question. It comes from Jorge. We've been writing back and forth a few times. He says, I recently decided to build my first PC for gaming and possibly schoolwork. I left a comment on one of the recent Potato Masher videos, and Germ Gaming replied saying, send my parts list to this email. The only problem is, it's my first build. I'm not sure what to buy that's similar or the same to the Potato Masher. My current budget is $350 or a little more. So I asked him some follow-up questions, and he can't find his copy of Windows. He has one, so we're going to have to add that into the budget. Let's see. He originally needed a monitor, but he has a monitor now that he can use. So where we're at now is his budget is $350 to $600. He has an old TV of a friend's he can use. He needs Windows. He needs a keyboard, needs a mouse, needs everything else. And he wants to match or exceed the Potato Masher if possible. Now, $350 to $600. I mean, it's the two of us. I'm assuming your thought immediately is, oh, okay, so we have $600.
Was there another option? I don't recall.
I mean, would that be correct?
Yeah.
I think we should try to keep it below that as much as possible, just so he's got some wiggle room.
Yeah.
But so what I'm looking at now, so far I have an Athlon 860K quad core, Cooler Master TX3, a cooler, a FM2 Plus motherboard, 8 gigs of Kingston Fury Black RAM, a Zalman Z1 case, and that's where I'm at now, is adding more things to that. So Dave, can you pick out a good cheap keyboard and mouse combo? I think there's one that we've talked about recently.
Putting me on the spot.
Oh, you can't come up with a keyboard and mouse combo? Oh,
Actually,
I'm sorry.
Give me a price. Is $31 okay for the combo?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we want him to have something decent.
Because I actually just picked up on sale a set for the General.
This is you? This is happening in real life? Yes?
I don't understand this question.
I started saying that when you were midway through saying that, so that was my fault. Sorry.
Well, now I'm just confused. I believe it's a CM Storm set, which is actually the same brand as my mechanical keyboard on my main computer. Yeah, it is, actually. So my main computer, I use a CM Storm Quickfire Mechanical, but for the General, I got this nifty little CM Storm Devastator membrane keyboard and mouse, and my ISP has decided to take over my browser with a giant warning that I'm at 85% of my data cap this month, and that is super obnoxious. Like, they already emailed me. I really have an issue with them injecting like browser windows as I'm trying to change web pages. I actually I think I emailed them about that, like, hey guys, really uncalled for.
Hey guys, could you not?
And they just never responded back to me.
Could you just not?
Anyway, let's see what the price is for this thing now that the page is actually loading. Oh yeah, it's $30 without the mail-in rebate. That's not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
Let me see what link you're sending me here. CM Storm Devastator. Okay, I will add that in just a second. So I'm going through video cards. I'm trying to get them under $600, well under $600 before rebates. So if he gets rebates, it's just kind of like, an additional perk.
Sure.
So I'm going with the GTX 950 graphics card. The new 10 series is great, but we're not going to be getting those cheap cards for a while now. We're getting the 1080 and the 1070, and then it's presumably the 1060 and the 1050 Ti, whatever.
Right.
That's all coming, but it's going to be months down the road. Doesn't really help them now. So we need preferably something that before rebates is going to work. So I had put a nicer power supply in there. I'm going to take it back out. If you want to wait, Jorge, these 950s go on sale for $100 to $120 all the time. So you could totally get one cheaper than this if you want to. But if you don't want to wait, I'm going to send you a decent option. It's an MSI. It should be good. It's about the same as the GPU in the Potato Masher. And that CPU is possibly a little bit slower than the Potato Mashers because it's overclocked, but you can push this CPU a little bit farther with overclocking if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to mess with it, then you absolutely don't have to, and it will be fine as is. So all I have to add, I think, is the keyboard and mouse.
And actually, while you're doing that, let me add a couple of notes on the keyboard and mouse. Now that I've used them just a bit, it's a great value. It looks great. I like the keycaps a lot because they have that slight like cell phone rubberized texture to them, like a nice keycap feel. It is, of course, membrane. But overall, this is one of the best budget sets I've seen. Be aware of two things, though, preference-wise, for mouse and keyboard. It's backlit with a ridiculously bright blue that is kind of eye-burning. So be aware of that. I like the backlights. I always have them on my keyboards, but it is super bright. And also the light is controlled by scroll lock, and each time you power on your PC, you have to hit scroll lock to light the keyboard. That annoys me, but if you don't always use the backlight, maybe you prefer that. Additionally, the mouse actually feels pretty good, but be aware that it's very flat shaped, like it doesn't have a lot of that palm shape to it. And it's also very, very light. And as someone who uses a G502 on my main computer with like 80% of the weights installed in the base, I like a heavier mouse. So I'm not a big fan of the weight of the lighter one. But still, one of the best budget keyboard and mouse sets that I've seen.
Cool. So where we're at right now, we have an 860K Athlon quad core. We have a Cooler Master Hyper TX3. We have an ASRock motherboard, Kingston Fury Black 8 gigs of RAM, Western Digital 1 terabyte hard drive, GTX 950, a Zalman case, an EVGA 500 watt power supply, Windows 8.1 Pro 64-bit, which of course you can upgrade to Windows 10 if you want, and the Cooler Master CM Storm gaming bundle. And that all comes out to, before rebates, $560. After rebates, it comes out to $537.
Nice. Very nice.
And that, now people might be wondering, okay, well, the Potato Masher is $375, so why is this so much more? Take off the cost of Windows, and we're down to a $437 thing. None of these parts are refurbished, and none of them are on sale. So that's where all that extra money goes.
Oh.
You can definitely save quite a bit of money, and if you are a student, you should definitely be looking into getting a student copy of Windows or getting one off an old computer you have or something like that. It sounds sketchy to say nobody should have to spend full price for Windows if they're on a budget. There are plenty of legit ways to get it for cheaper. You just got to look into them a little bit.
I was just going to guess that the price difference was because you were a horrible liar, but
yes, that's
you know.
But this should be a pretty good build. Now, Jorge, in case you're wondering why did I not give you an Intel setup here, because the G3258 or the G4400 are awesome Intel dual cores. They're the only ones in this price bracket, but with modern games, they are going to struggle on anything that requires 4 processing threads. A lot of people online want to argue this incessantly. One guy was arguing with me on Reddit because some guy made another Potato Masher post, said, hey, I want to build a Potato Masher. What do you think of this build? And the guy wrote back and said, no, that sucks. You need to get this build. And the build he recommended had a G4400. And I wrote back and I said, hey, not to be a dick, but you really should not be recommending like a dual core processor because of these reasons. And as part of his proof that it was totally fine, he sent me a video of him or someone else playing The Witcher 3, and both cores were absolutely maxed out at 100% the entire time.
In The Witcher? Oh,
in
man.
The Witcher, and it was at sub 30 FPS most of the time. And somehow that was proof that processor could hang with it. So I don't really know what to say to people if they don't understand why it's a dumb idea. But
Look, Jeremiah, if it's only maxed out in 2016, it's basically good to go for the future, okay? It's only 100%.
All right. Next question comes from Connor. Connor writes in and says, "Hey, podcast is great. Keep up the good work. I'm graduating high school in a little over a month, and I want to buy a laptop over the summer to see me through college for gaming and schoolwork. I have a budget of $1,000 with a hard cap. It would need to be something important or major for me to go over that. I want to be able to play games at medium to high settings at a stable 60F if possible. The most intensive games I plan on playing currently are Dark Souls 3, Darksiders 2, and Bethesda games. In addition, my university has some requirements that I need to meet listed below. An Intel i3, i5, or i7 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, optional optical drive, 256 gig hard drive, Windows 7, 8.1 or 10, or a bunch of Mac options, and they require 802.11ac wireless. So like if you have 802.11n, they're just going to kick you off the network.
Your IP gets banned instantly. Wait,
He says,
is the current version of OS X actually called El Capitan?
yes.
Oh, why?
Just let it go.
All right, moving on.
All right, he says, I'm not entirely hardware and network savvy. I don't know exactly what that means. I know you will probably recommend a desktop, but I would like to stick with a laptop because of portability and space. If you could recommend some models that would do what I'm looking for, or list some places to look at what kind of hardware I need to look for, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Slap a seal. Okay, Dave,
Yes.
could you tell Connor, tell the listeners, why you may not want to buy a quote-unquote gaming laptop based off of your personal experience, especially if you are going to college with said gaming laptop?
I am the guy who is building world and conflict maps on a gaming laptop in the back of art history class, so I've been there. I will say, at a time when I did not have high-speed internet, it was awesome, but that was like really the only plus, is that like I had dial-up at home, and I could go to the computer lab and play Battlefield. Everything else was like a negative. It was stupid expensive. It was hot. It was heavy. Like, I actually remember shoulder pain on my right shoulder from carrying that laptop, because the laptop alone, not counting the power brick, was 11.5 pounds. And then like the power brick adds another pound onto it, and you got your accessories and all that stuff. Like, it was awful to carry. And I used to walk a lot, and like between classes and stuff, and it was just like I could have done some major shoulder damage with that stupid thing. And for what you're getting for the money, like the money that was spent on that laptop, thankfully it was a gift for graduation. I could have built like 2 top tier gaming computers and like just left one in class or something. Like, it was such a waste of money, but I do understand the portability and, the space saving. I get it. I would say don't worry so much about trying to get a really good gaming laptop. Get a good laptop that is powerful and can do your work and kind of play some games, and then maybe save up some money and do a desktop too. What do you think, Jeremiah?
I mostly agree with that. I'll piggyback off what you said. The biggest reason you don't want a gaming laptop is most of the ones that can do what you want, which is medium to high settings at 60 FPS in like Dark Souls 3, which is a fairly demanding game. Those are going to be very heavy. They're going to be like what Dave was describing. They're going to be like 8 pounds, and the batteries are going to suck, and you're going to have to tote them everywhere. You could, for $1,000, you could totally buy a Chromebook to take notes in class, or a cheap laptop, and build a pretty decent desktop. Mm-hmm. So, if you do not have room to keep both of those, or there's something else restricting you from doing that, that's fine. I'm going to send you 2 laptop recommendations. And then if you say, oh, well, I could buy a cheap laptop or a Chromebook and then, build a desktop for gaming, write back and we will hook you up. But you're actually a little bit in luck, because I'm comparison shopping the same thing right now. Not for gaming, but I have a thin-ish laptop, which is a fine laptop, but I cannot work on it when I travel. It's not fast enough. I can work on it, but it just chugs the entire time. So I'm looking at getting a quad-core laptop for like $700 to $800 that has enough of a GPU to have CUDA cores that I can use for video rendering. Basically 1080p, quad-core, 8 to 16 gigs of RAM, pretty basic work laptop. And a lot of those models have some type of graphics card in them. So there's two I'm looking at. There's a Dell, and I don't see the model name on Amazon, but it's a Dell 15-inch 1080p IPS, has a quad-core, a GTX 960M with 4 gigs of VRAM, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gig SSD, Windows 10. It is $800. It is also 7 pounds, which is not terrible, but
that's not great either.
It's not great, but it's not terrible. Now, if you want to go a little lighter, there's an Asus, which is also $800, and it has are they both 800? Yes, they are. All right, and the Asus is aluminum. It's a little bit thinner. It's only 4.5 pounds. All the other specs are mostly the same. Let me make sure. No, okay. It has a hyper-threaded dual-core processor, which would still be fine for almost all games. 1080p GTX 950M, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256 gig SSD. So it's a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter, not quite as fast, same price. But also would be a great laptop to tote around into class and play some games. You're not going to be playing at the highest settings. A GTX 950M or 960M are not the equivalents of a desktop GTX 960 or 950. They are more akin to like a 750 Ti. So if you're okay with like low to medium settings or playing at a lower resolution, which on a 15-inch screen you can get away with, you could probably be pretty happy gaming with one of these. They're not bad at all, but if you're pretty serious about medium to high settings and 60 FPS, we would strongly push you towards having two computers.
Yeah, for sure.
But you write back into us if you want any clarification, and we'll help you out. All right, up next is Joe. Dave, do you have the emails open?
Yeah, but you're scooting around pretty fast here. I'm looking for the order that you're going in. I haven't found it yet.
Well, there's some people who write back in just to like clarify something, so I'm marking things on my end, but you can't see that. Sorry. Okay, so Joe D wrote in and said, "Hey, well, we answered his questions. I'm reading the wrong person's. Joe wrote in. Sorry about that. All right. Hey, CSG, I have a question about upgrading my PC. His current setup is an AMD FX 6300 running at 4 gigahertz, a GTX 760, a Hyper 212, a gigabyte motherboard, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gig SSD, 2 terabyte and 1 terabyte storage drives, Cooler Master case, Corsair CX 600 watt power supply. After playing The Witcher 3 at 30 FPS, 1080p high settings for the past year, I have decided for the upcoming expansion, I want to achieve 60 FPS at 1080p.
Yes!
However, if possible, I would like to keep the upgrade to under 350 pounds or euros. With the GTX 1070 coming out, I'm very tempted to go for that as I would not have to replace anything but the GPU. The problem is, a FX 6300 at 4 gigahertz could be too much of a bottleneck for that card and render it a waste of a purchase, right? If I upgraded my CPU, I would need a new motherboard, Windows key, have to deal with reinstalling Windows, etc., and still be stuck with a GTX 760. Would an i5 6500 with the 760 be the upgrade that I'm looking for? Or should I just get an 8320? Or an i5 4460? I'm pretty stumped here and would love to hear you guys' opinion on what my best bet is on getting the highest frame rate possible for my budget. Thanks, guys. Love the show. So this is the age-old CPU or GPU. What matters for games? Now, Dave, if there's anybody I trust to know how to get the most frames out of The Witcher, it's you. What does he need to do?
What you want to do is get in your car, go to your bank, go up to the counter and say, Geralt needs my money. And then you just take it all out of the bank and you pour it from a bucket into a box, send it to Newegg, and they'll just send you back graphics cards. That was my philosophy and my plan for The Witcher 3 at least.
But CPU or GPU, what does he need to upgrade?
The Witcher makes pretty good use of a multi-core CPU, but it doesn't really what I would call like crush it. It's not like GTA 5 or what's another good example for CPU?
The new Call of Duty is fairly CPU intensive.
Okay, yeah.
Arma, but that's not really fair because it's poorly optimized.
It's the first couple of cores. Arma is its own special case scenario.
Yeah.
You're more familiar with AMD's CPU lineup. What do you think?
It's a hexacore. It's about as fast for gaming as a, any Intel chip that cost about $120. It's about as fast as an i3 for gaming. At 4 gigahertz, that's pretty good. I bet you can get it farther than 4 gigahertz. Push a little. But it should be fine for The Witcher. Since the Potato Masher has a GTX 760 in it, I feel like I can speak to the amount of performance he's getting with that. You will not hit 60 FPS in The Witcher with that card with any processor.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was
at
thinking.
1080p.
Yeah.
Certainly not at high settings. If you crank everything all the way down, in some cases you might. But it is a GPU-locked game. Here's the problem. If you want to be Geralt ready day one, you can't get a 1070. So if the used market is good in your area, you can get a 980 Ti. I don't know what they're going for used. New, they're going for £540. So that's obviously out of budget. But I don't want to recommend that he gets a GTX 970. They're going for £260. They would definitely do what he needs. But like the 1070s are probably going to be £300 if I'm doing the conversion right. And that would be, twice as fast.
Yeah, but okay, so here's my scenario, right? He wants to be, as you described it, Geralt ready on day one. Launch day, May 31st, right? Time is short. If he's going to buy new, it should probably be a 970, right? Like if you can find a good deal from a retailer, maybe Amazon, get it quickly. If he can kind of fudge the date just a bit, make do with what he has for a little bit longer, I think one of those used TIs for the 980s would be a great way to go. Just to, play with what you got for a week or so until it gets there. If you really want to, hold out 1070, what do you think of that setup?
I think it's good. And, if you can wait for 1070, that is going to be your best bang for the buck. Now, to answer your other question, will that CPU bottleneck the card? Kinda. It depends, it depends on the game. In games that are very CPU locked, like GTA 5, it will. But just because it's bottlenecking it doesn't mean that card still can't do a ton. I'm thinking about doing a video, I've talked about it for a while, I should just do it, with a Potato Masher where I put a 980 Ti in there, because that's like a way imbalanced setup, and I bet you it'll play most games totally fine. CPUs are not as important for most games as most people think, and even games that can max out the CPU, they generally are running fine already. When you see CPU tests for games, you'll notice they're normally using like a Titan X or something to totally remove the GPU bottleneck. Usually in games, your GPU will bottleneck before your CPU does.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So to answer your question, yeah, it's a little bit of a bottleneck, but it's absolutely the right move. You will not get the frames you want with any processor upgrade if you keep a 760. Get a 980 Ti used, or get a GTX 970, or get a GTX 1070.
I like it.
All right. Next is Austin. We helped him with a build a while ago. Hey, you filthy casuals. Austin here. I want to thank you guys for helping on my PC. I couldn't have done it without you. And he sent us a picture of his build, which is looking pretty snazzy. He has an EVGA power supply, a reference GeForce GTX cooled graphics card, a Hyper 212. Looks like he's rocking and rolling down there.
Ooh, man, I love the look of those reference cards. They just look slick.
They do have a good color scheme and everything going on. And I like the lit up. Text. Now I don't have a window on my case, so I don't really care.
You scrub, you pure peasant.
It's so quiet. Instead, I have sound deadening.
Yeah, one thing I'm looking forward to. I love this Zotac card, but the 3 fans are actually the loudest thing in my case by far. Just because I think they're like a little bit smaller and they kind of have like a buzz to them. I'm looking forward to some quieter fans.
And he also says, I'd love to play Rocket League with you guys sometime. Nitsua should be my Steam account name. I don't play as much Rocket League anymore. But
Rocket League!
Yeah. Hopefully there will be some sort of Rocket League event going on in the future.
Yes.
But if you want to play Rocket League, there is a pretty dedicated group that plays at least a few times a week.
Yeah,
you
know.
Now, I think if he's in Europe, this might be kind of hard, but if you hop onto our community Teamspeak channel, which is always in the description of these videos, audio and video, you can meet people and you can ask about Rocket League, and people are normally playing Rocket League a couple times a week. So if you want to and the time zones work out, there will be some people playing, and it's usually a couple of the Casual Shenanigans people and some community members. So that's probably the best way. I would say don't add Dave or I on Steam. It's not that hard to figure out our Steam IDs, but we get a fair number of Steam friend requests, and usually there's no face to put on the name, because people can name their Steam accounts whatever they want. So I normally go through like once a week and just ignore like a whole list of friend requests.
I think I rejected Mark's request like twice because he kept forgetting to tell me what his Steam name was.
And it's not to be mean or anything. It's just because we get a lot of requests, and most of the time, if we're going to play a multiplayer thing, it's set up ahead of time. We are too busy. We never just hop on and go, what do we want to do tonight?
Yeah. I'm looking at my calendar here, and like this recording is wedged in between like 5 other recordings today.
Yeah, Dave and I make content. We don't consume it as much as we used to or might like to sometimes. But Dave always makes time for Grog Bar, which is, I don't understand the whole Rocket League culture that's sprung up. But if you want to hop in and Grog Bar with people, check out our Teamspeak channel.
It's because we can lie to ourselves. We're just going to play a couple of quick rounds. Like they're 5-minute matches, 5-7 minutes. 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't even see the ball anymore. I just see blurs.
All right, next email comes from Robert, and he writes in and says, "Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Back up. Have you made a new time code yet?"
I was typing it right now.
Okay, Austin had a second email that I missed. Sorry about that, Austin. He was also wondering what's the name of the performance overlay you use when testing the potato masher. That is MSI Afterburner. It comes with Riva Tuner Statistics Server, and the two of them together will give you an overlay you can customize. You can customize the look and the size and the color and what's in it and what the system monitors, and I highly recommend it. It's kind of industry standard along with EVGA Precision, but I think MSI Afterburner is a little better, and it should do what you need.
On a side note for content creation, actually, after you got me hooked on MSI Afterburner for overclocking and just monitoring and stuff like that, I actually swapped from DxTory over to Afterburner for my screenshots because Afterburner has never not been able to hook a game, whereas DxTory occasionally has trouble hooking, might need like a patch or something, but Afterburner has always hooked. So it's now my screenshot tool. And it has a pretty decent video recorder too, actually.
I've never experimented with it. What are your options?
Not quite DxTory level for like the audio channels, but a lot of codec options approaching a DxTory level of options, which also means, there's that initial, setup hurdle. But if you don't use Shadowplay or don't have it for some reason, maybe you're on AMD, well, I guess
they have their own version.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, screenshot tool, if nothing else, is very awesome. I love the screenshot tool.
Next email is from Robert. He says, "Hey guys, I have some questions about monitors. I will be building a new machine in the next month or two and giving my current setup to my little brothers, an i5-2500K and a GTX 570. You are a good older brother, Robert. I want to game at a minimum of 1440p. My man, a minimum 1440p. I am very used to using multiple monitors, but I would rather not shell out $1,200 for a couple of 1440 displays. Can I run a 1440 monitor off my GPU and a second 1080 monitor off the integrated graphics? I have thought about a 1440 ultra-wide, but I think I will miss having the second display. Any suggestions, or do I just bite the bullet and get 2 1440s? You don't have to read this on the podcast. I would just like a little advice. Screw you, Robert. You can't tell me what I can and can't read on the podcast. I've already emailed him back to answer his question because it's an easy answer. You can run a 1440 and a 1080 monitor together. You don't have to have all your monitors match in resolution.
Yes.
Dave, what resolutions are you running?
I am running a 2560 by 1440 and a 1920 by 1080 secondary monitor, and I control about 9 other computers via TeamViewer.
And does it hurt your performance at all to have that second monitor plugged into your gaming graphics card?
Yes.
Do you need to have it plugged into integrated?
It hurts like 0.5%. It means almost nothing, basically. I was curious, though. I took a screenshot of my desktop. My current active resolution, including, blank space where the resolutions don't line up, is 4480 by 1440.
Cool. I'm running 1680 by 1050 vertical, and I'm running 3840 by 2160 in the middle, then I'm running a 1080 on the side, and all of them work perfectly fine together. So I emailed him back. He goes, now, there's no reason to run off your integrated graphics if you can even get it to work. It's one of those things that in theory you could get to work. In practice, it's probably going to be very difficult and require more steps than you want to go through.
For sure.
But any modern graphics card should support at least 2 or 3 displays. Some of them support quite a bit more. And that's totally fine to use. All right. Wade wrote in. Wade says, for your listener with a $4,000 build, Corsair makes a white mouse. Apparently, we were having a hard time finding one. The M65 Pro is a white mouse that Corsair makes. I know you guys were having a hard time finding one last week for someone's build. Enjoy the show, guys. Have a good day. Thanks,
Nice.
Wade. I feel like an idiot because I have an M65 Pro sitting on my desk right now. Mine's black, but I did not know they made a white version. Thanks. All right. Last email of the evening. Michael writes in and says, so this is my first gaming PC I have built myself. So he's already built this. I was wondering how it compares to other mid-ranged gaming PCs. Also, do you have any suggestions on upgrades I should make? So far, it has ran everything I've wanted it to run. I know for my CPU, there's always the upgrade to the FX 8350, but I have my 8320 overclocked to 4.2, so I really don't see the point in spending the extra money. Thanks for any help you can give me. So here's what he's running right now. An FX 8320, clocked at 4.2 gigahertz, a Hyper 212, a Gigabyte 990 FX motherboard, G-Skill 8 gigs RAM, a 120 gig SSD, a 2 terabyte Seagate Barracuda, a Radeon 7950 graphics card, an NZXT case, an EVGA 80 plus gold 650 watt power supply, and Asus DVD burner Windows 10. That is a pretty awesome build. And it runs everything, he says. Actually, kind of funnily enough, I used to run an 8350 and a 7950 and 120 gig SSD. But anyway, Dave, when do you need to upgrade your build?
As often as possible.
Ignoring the Geralt stuff.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We're trying to help people right now. We're not trying to indulge in your obsessions.
When are you supposed to upgrade your computer? What is CG Projekt Red's release schedule? Just look at that. When you have a noticeable performance like issue with, I'd say, multiple programs and games, with the exception of my Witcher obsession, you don't want to upgrade just for one game in most cases. Or one program even, I don't think.
I agree. If it's doing what you want, don't worry about it. That's a good build. Mm-hmm. Like you don't need to swap anything else out if you don't want to. If you were going to make any upgrades, Dave, what would you upgrade?
Yeah, I'm just going down the list here. For a gaming computer, I think. Okay. The hard drive is probably a bit small. The SSD.
Yeah.
There's some good deals. A 120 is pretty low. That I think would be my first option. Looking at the graphics card now, 7953 gig. That's getting older for sure. But if it works for what he's doing, that's good stuff.
I mean, it's a good card. Yeah, I agree. I'd go with the SSD first. If he doesn't need the extra space, I guess he doesn't need it. But that's the first thing I would be looking to upgrade because I would be worried that it couldn't hang with modern stuff. You can install like 1 or 2 games and Windows on it, and that's it. So bigger SSDs are cheap. Samsung 850 Evo, 840. The 850 Pro is also good. SanDisk makes good ones. There's plenty of people who make good ones. Type in SSD on Amazon, sort by most popular, choose the one that fits your budget. I mean, there's that many. If you want us to narrow one down for you, let us know. And then a 7950 is probably the next thing I would upgrade. You definitely do not need an 8350. The 8350 and the 8320 are the same chip at different speeds. So if you can overclock yours to 4.2, there's no reason to buy the slightly faster factory clocked one. And the 8350 is still a pretty decent chip. But yeah, for a 7950, if you want to stick AMD, the R9 290 would be a great upgrade, and those are selling for $200. Or the R9 380X is like the same exact card, sells for the same amount. I don't know how much you want to spend, but like a GPU upgrade, you would definitely notice the 7950 to 290 jump because I've made that jump and I definitely noticed it. So I would say a 290 is close to as fast as two 7950s. It's maybe like 85% as fast as two 7950s. So you definitely notice that jump, and that'd be pretty cheap. Anything else to add, Dave?
No.
All right. Then that's our show. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. You can write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com to be a part of the show. Try to include as much detail as you can in your emails. If we don't have enough detail to answer it, we will write back for some clarification before we record the show. If you are writing in with a question and it is extremely time sensitive for one reason or another, make sure you put that in the subject line, and we will try to get you a quick text answer before we answer the audio version on the podcast, just so you're not waiting for like a month and a half in case something comes up and we can't record an episode. But I encourage you to go check out the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, and there are plenty of other little shows and one-off things we do on the Casual Shenanigans YouTube channel. So, let's see, Twitter, Casual Shenaniga, Evil Viking, Germ Gaming. We both have YouTube channels. You guys can figure that out. And anything else, Dave?
No. Thanks for the questions, guys.
All right.
And
yeah, thank you guys very much.
Wish us luck on the 1080 lottery, I guess.
Dave, we're caught up.
Are we?
On questions. Yeah, we're completely caught up on questions.
Woo!
Send more in. Send more. But maybe not for a week or two until Dave surfaces for air.
I mean, I'll have to sleep sometime. Just put the podcast scheduled in right there.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. And until next time, bye.